Well, good afternoon. This is Houndog Steve wishing you a very pleasant afternoon. And here we are. One of my concerns and predictions from my New Year's video. Weather. Out of the ordinary weather, extreme weather. Absolutely unbelievable what is happening right now in the US Midwest and actually from northern Texas right the way up into New York. We're talking sub-zero temperatures right now in Sweetwater, Texas, which is just about 250 miles north of here. They're down to minus 12 degrees centigrade. This is going to be, as you can see, a 5-day event below zero. And they're now talking about possibility of up to 3 inches of freezing rain. And so this is going to be an event. There's absolutely no doubt about it. 3 inches of rain, you're looking at hydro lines down, you're looking at tree branches falling down. The cleanup is so unbelievably difficult. We went through this in Ontario last spring, southern Ontario. We had an ice storm go through and we had about 3/4 of an inch to an inch, and there were trees bent over double from the weight of the ice. And of course, you know, was it 2004, 2005, there was the Montreal ice storm. They got 2.5 inches of ice, and it was 6 months cleaning up and getting the power restored, especially in all the rural areas. Now, the cities, the main lines, they're probably going to be okay. They look pretty structurally intact and fairly new, but it's when you branch off into the towns, villages, smaller areas, some of that stuff is aging, should have been replaced, and it's not ready, you know, for an ice storm like this to go through. And this is almost like a river of water riding over a very, very, very cold high pressure system and raining through. And so depending on that temperature, whereabouts exactly you are, you're going to get a mixture of ice pellets, freezing rain, snow. It is going to be brutal. And of course, you know, as I have noticed down here, we're a bit south, you know, like in Brownsville, I think we've got a low of 3 degrees centigrade and some highs of around about, I don't know, 15, 16 degrees for a few days, but certainly more than tolerable compared to what's going to be happening up in the Midwest, as they say, and up to New York. And so anyway, but down here, people don't bury their pipes. There is very little insulation in the walls because these events are actually fairly rare, and so you are going to see frozen pipes and probably splitting of pipes. It's going to be very, very difficult. Heating, if the hydro goes down, natural gas. This is what happened in the last big freeze they had down in Texas, New Mexico. The natural gas wellheads froze up, and they couldn't transmit any gas, so people couldn't heat their homes. It was an absolute disaster. But what we're seeing, of course, is that these once in 100-year events are now once in 10 or 15-year events, and they're becoming more intense. And here's a couple of shots from a place in Russia called Kamchatka, and they just had 10 feet of snow. It was blowing up to 12 and 14 feet in drifts, and as you can see again by these photographs, I mean, can you imagine? That was one storm, and they're breaking records going back to 1850. And you know, you only need a second storm like that coming through, and you are completely landlocked by you can't move. You look at how you dig your cars out. Where are you going to go? Where are you going to go? And as I say, as we go through, you know, and this is the frustrating thing about climate change, you know, is that, you know, we know that climate change does happen. I personally believe that we're in a transition period and moving back into either a little ice age or a full-scale ice age. But I've got a couple of charts here. I'm going to put them up. The first one, the red one, is the Greenland ice core samples. Now that is a 10,000-year chart, and the other one is a 800,000-year chart, and it is from the Arctic ice core samples. And one of the things I would ask you to notice about this is that at no point on either chart is the temperature flatlining. Okay, that temperature is either going up or going down. And in those up periods there are down periods, and in those down periods there are up periods. So you can have warming when there's an overall cooling trend, and you can have cooling when there's an overall warming trend. And that's what the Little Ice Age was. You know, that basically followed after the medieval warm period, where it was significantly warmer. You know, it was warm enough where they had vineyards and orchards in England, in central England, which is unheard of. So yes, the weather does change, the climate does change, and even small changes can make a big difference, especially, you know, when you get these intense storms. And that's what I think we're going to go into. You might not quite see as much in the way of these intense storms, but when they hit, they will be really intense. And the big question is, you know, will our infrastructure be able to withstand the impact of a storm, you know, where it's dumping anywhere between 2 and 6 inches of water, ice, freezing rain, well, whatever it is. You know, it might take months or years to recover for that infrastructure to be fully functioning again. So yes, I hate to see it when my predictions come true, but like I say, this is what we're going to see more of. I think it is going to be more cooling events like this. And of course, I came across a little chart. I'm going to see if I can find it. I'll put it up, but it is that there are more deaths from cold events than heat events, which I was kind of surprised at when I saw. But yes, there is more deaths from cold events than heat events, and you can see that. You know, if you lose, like say these people who are going to lose hydro, possibly heat, can't get around, are going to be stuck in that situation for 4 or 5 days with very little time for preparation. This is going to be an eye-opener and a wake-up call. And so we need to prepare ourselves. Of course, I should be mentioning Ontario. They're getting part of this too. This is the Arctic blast that's coming down. Ontario is now into minus 35 degrees centigrade, and I even saw a rumour of up to minus 50 degrees centigrade. Now that might be with the wind chill, I'm not sure, but I tell you, minus 35 centigrade is pretty damn chilly, and they've had that since November. Not that cold, but they've been into the minuses and snow basically from the beginning of November right the way through until now. That's 3 solid months of sub-zero temperatures, and you can imagine what that is doing to the heating bill. It is incredibly expensive to heat your home when it gets that cold, especially if you have poor insulation, not ready for this kind of stuff. Wow. It's going to be interesting to see. And in fact, I'm actually fully thinking I leave here on March 15th and start driving northwards, and I am pretty convinced now that I'm going to be going to some disaster areas on the way home, because like I say, when Montreal happened, it took months to get it cleaned up. And yeah, here we are. We're testing our infrastructure, and I guess this is one way to get your infrastructure renewed, but it won't be very pleasant, I am afraid to say. Anyway, we're going to watch the weather. We're going to keep our eyes and ears open, and again, it's just another indication that you need to be prepped up for at least 72 hours without anybody coming to assist you, whether that's kerosene heaters, stored food, dried food, this kind of stuff, extra blankets. You know, you need to be prepared for an event. You know, summertime's not an issue. Most of you, unless it is absolutely blistering hot, it's a different form of survival. And most times you can find shade, but boy, when that cold comes creeping in and you can't find warmth, it does not take long. Okay, well, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I hope this all finds you well, and I hope that you stay safe and that you have made some preparations. I'm hoping that the people who listen to this channel are already a little bit ahead of the curve and are, you know, anticipating some of the things that might be coming down the track. Okay, so if you've enjoyed this video, please like, comment, subscribe below, and in the meantime, this is Houndog Steve wishing you a very pleasant afternoon. We'll talk very, very shortly. See you now. Bye.